South, in between, we welcome you. Thank you for being here today. We have a wonderful program for you this afternoon. You are going to hear from people from all across the world. Don't be intimidated by the length of the program because our speakers are limited to 4 minutes, and we will hold them to that, I assure you. Please allow me to introduce my co-host for the afternoon, Dr. Jibril Diallo of UNAIDS.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. And good evening. Good evening. President Wad made the political decision to bring this Forum on African Renaissance from the Waldorf Astoria in Midtown Manhattan to the Temple of African Renaissance. Let's say thank you very much. We're here this evening, or this afternoon, on the theme of African Renaissance and the United States of Africa. This is a meeting to promote closer cooperation between Africa and the diaspora. And it is a meeting that we have the honor to be chaired by His Excellency, Meck Abdoulaye Wade, President of the Republic of Senegal. The co-sponsors of this event are the National Conference of Black Mayors, the National Association for Equal Opportunity in Higher Education, NAFU, the Office of State Senator Bill Perkins of New York, the New York Amsterdam News, and many other personalities. This event is for the creation of the United States of Africa by the year 2017. Endorsed by the African Union ably represented here by the President of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Jean Ping, here present. Leaders and representatives from more than 70 countries comprising Africa and the diaspora are being invited, and they're still getting in, because everybody who gets in here is on an invitation. So that is why we will take some time, but we will have leaders coming from 70 countries, from Africa, from the Caribbean, and from the Americas. That is, Americas with significant diaspora dimensions. President Abdoulaye Wade is regarded at the United Nations as the champion of African Renaissance. President Wade dared to convene the World Festival of Black Arts over 30 years after the second one was held in Nigeria. And President Wade said, this festival should not just be a festival now, there should be a follow-up to the festival. And this is why we are here this evening. That is, this is a follow-up to the World Festival of Black Arts. You will hear from President Wade in a moment about his vision on African Renaissance, but let me just take a number of visions, very important, on his side. One is that President Wade says that he is spearheading with other leaders the creation of the United States of Africa by the year 2017. That's point number one. Point number two, that the diaspora should be recognized as the sixth region of Africa. Point number two, that people of African descent should have total access to every African nation in the United States of Africa. And for that, with the support of President Jean Ping, President Wade intends to organize a ceremony at the African Union Summit in January, where a symbolic African Union passport will be given to Ambassador Dudley Thompson, Ambassador Dudley Thompson was at the Pan-African Congress in Manchester in 1945.
Wow.
And during that Pan-African conference, the Pan-African ideals were decided. So under the leadership of President Wade, with the support of President Jamping, there will be symbolic passport from the African Union given to our elder, Ambassador Dudley Thompson, which will lead to giving dual nationality to every one of the people of the diaspora who wish to come and live and settle in Africa. This is very, very important. For us, this meeting today came because on the 15th of June, President Wade invited mayors, presidents of universities, academics, artists and intellectuals to join him in Dakar, and that led to the signature of a partnership or memorandum of understanding between the mayors of the United States, members of the National Conference of Black Mayors, and the mayors of Senegal. And symbolically, there were 12 mayors from the United States that signed an agreement with 12 mayors from Senegal. And again, in the spirit of democracy in Senegal, President Wade said that of the 6 mayors from Senegal, of the 12 mayors, 6 should be from the opposition and 6 should be from the majority government. Wow. This is what Senegal is about. Secondly, the National Association for Equal Opportunity in Higher Education signed a memorandum of understanding with the 4 universities of Senegal, namely the University of Ziguinchor, the University of Thiès, the universities of Dakar, and the University of St. Louis. That is a memorandum of understanding that is standing. Third, we have the new National Theatre in Senegal. The president said, how can we use this new National Theatre as an embodiment for the strengthening of links between Africa and the diaspora? So we called on some of the most experienced African Americans to come and discuss with Africans. So that is the basis of a business plan on that side. Fourth element has to do with the African Renaissance Monument, taller than the Statue of Liberty, the African Renaissance Monument. And how can we have that African Renaissance Monument to be the symbol of the United States of Africa? These are visionary ideas that not only move us forward, but also deal with the day-to-day needs of Africa. This is why for us at the United Nations, this is very, very important because it helps us to deal with the Millennium Development Goals. Because in September 2015, 193 countries will get together here in the General Assembly, and every country will say whether it has attained the Millennium Development Goals or not. And we don't want Africa to be left behind in September 2015. That is why our champion, President of Senegal, President Wade, is leading this movement of elected officials, of academics, of artists and intellectuals to make sure that when the day of reckoning comes in September 2015, African countries will be among the first to have achieved the Millennium Development Goals using the fight against HIV/AIDS as an entry point. On the way forward, a number of points. One, from the 15th to the 19th of December 2011, President Wade is convening in Dakar, Senegal, a World Summit of Mayors that will bring together over 300 mayors coming from Africa, from the Caribbean, from the diaspora, from Europe, from all the parts of the world where there are people of African descent. This will be a major opportunity for us to really do the state of the black world in the areas that I mentioned. Finally, in January 2012, we will have the African Union Summit, as was mentioned earlier, which will be a snapshot about how the experience in Senegal can be used for 53 African countries. So this was by way of introduction to this historic meeting today under the leadership of President Wade, President Jamping, and other leaders here present. Thank you very much.
begin our program, we want to introduce you to the new head of the Schomburg Center, Dr. Khalil Gibran Muhammad. Please welcome him and his new
President Champagne, 54 African nations, because we have South Sudan has just become a nation as well, so 54 African nations.
I didn't inherit my predecessor's height. President Wad, First Lady, thank you for joining us here at the Schomburg Center today. To all the leaders of the world who are gathered here on this august occasion, welcome to the Schomburg Center. And for those of you who are Senegalese, Nangadet. I want to also thank Dr. Diallo for coordinating and reaching out to the Schomburg Center to give us the opportunity to host this gathering of really thinkers and change agents. I was very pleased to hear the focus and concern about the Millennium Development Goals because we live in precarious times. Global markets are falling. The Dow Jones has just fallen 400 points just today. Poverty and hunger, disease, most certainly AIDS, and the exploitation of children around the world continue to darken the hopes and dreams of both the unborn and the innocent. And so an occasion like this, and at a place like this that has been dedicated to the cause of human rights, has been dedicated to the documentation of the contributions of Black people in the world, building civilization, and reaching out across oceans to connect and to show fidelity for joint causes is exactly what the Schomburg Center stands for. So I want to take this final opportunity then to speak to those who have embodied this legacy, such as the founder of this institution, Arturo Schomburg, to Du Bois in convening the first Pan-African Congress, to the great Marcus Garvey, who marched the streets of this community in an effort to unify Black people, to make them proud of their African heritage. And of course, Malcolm X and Dr. John Henrik Clarke, both of whom stood on the very streets that surround this building, speaking truth to power and making sure that we would have a future that could one day be realized in a gathering like this. Thank you again for coming. I look forward to reaching our goals in 2015.
Very much. I don't know if I can live up to that introduction, but President Wada, Your Excellency, and to your wife, and to all the other dignitaries that have traveled with you, I want to welcome you to our community, to your community, to Harlem, the place we like to believe is the Mecca of the African diaspora. I had the honor last year to be graciously invited by His Excellency President Wade to visit Senegal as part of a U.S. delegation of elected officials, human and civil rights leaders, and Black scholars attending the Black World Arts Festival and Conference in Dakar. It was a beautiful, enlightening, and productive experience. I am now honored to be collaborating with the National Organization for Equal Opportunity in Higher Education and the National Conference of Black Mayors at today's reception, where we play host to President Abdoulaye Wade, who was a great leader of a great nation. We have gathered under the auspices of Black America's premier reference library, the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, newly led by scholar Dr. Khalil Gibran Muhammad. Please give him another round of applause. He had giant feet to fill, coming behind Dr. Howard Dotson. But he has filled those feet and has made his mark magnificently in the short time he's been here. And I want to, again, thank him for taking on this humongous task and being a very enlightened person, as a leader as it comes to this particular institution. And today, obviously, is evidence of that. This remarkable institution grew out of the collection of the distinguished Puerto Rican-born black scholar and bibliophile Arturo Alfonso Schomburg. The Schomburg collection was started to refute a teacher who had told him as a boy, quote, "Negroes have no history," end quote. Both as Africans and African Americans, so much of our history has been stolen from us, kept from us, or wildly distorted. Malcolm X, recognizing the profound importance of history, wrote, quote, "Of all our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research," end quote. At President Watt's request, reaching out to elected officials, key leaders in private sector, and others, representatives of civil society from the New York area, today's proceedings are meant to begin to reclaim a history that is imbued with our common destiny. Separated by force and dire circumstances for centuries, it is time for us to at last come together for our mutual benefit. And so it is, my brothers and sisters, in the name of Sukulu, the warrior king, Arturo Schomburg, and Malcolm X, I welcome you warmly to the African American Cultural Capital in Harlem. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the presence of some of my colleagues in government. Will they please stand? They have come from not only this community, but from other parts of the city and the state to be a part of this momentous occasion. Thank you very much. You know, Harlem is blessed because we have in Harlem a consul general who has an office in Harlem. In fact, Mr. President, it is your country that is the only African country that has established a consulate general's office in this community, and we're very honored to recognize C.D. Young, your consul general. You do a wonderful job, very active, very visible, and we would encourage all of our brothers from Africa to do the same. We have space for you that is affordable, and if necessary, we will provide a subsidy. I also want to thank and pay homage to Dr. Khalil Gibran again for the leadership that he's providing to this institution at a very, very important transitional time. It's the kind of leadership that we all are going to have to help him with as we help Dr. Dotson. And so I'm hopeful that we will all be continually working with him to make sure that this remains the premier institution for our culture. Now, in conclusion, I know that there are many dignitaries and important people in this room. And I know that towards that end, you are all strategically sitting next to someone on your left and on your right that is really a VIP. So take a moment and introduce yourself to the VIP on your left and on your right. In fact, get an autograph.